A question we need to consider is, how does breath work compare with aerobic or anaerobic cardio training, such as running, cycling, and sprinting? We see how breath work exercises the diaphragm and intercostals, but so does exercise such as running, cycling, and sprinting. And so we have to establish whether there's any merit in adding breathwork practice to an exercise program or practice that already includes aerobic or anaerobic exercise. So cardiovascular training or aerobic activity is pretty well studied and established as being beneficial for health and fitness by the industry. So a recommendation from the American Heart Association says that people should get at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise or 75 minutes per week of vigorous aerobic activity, or a combination of both spread throughout the week. And in addition, they recommend adding moderate to high intensity muscle strengthening activities such as weightlifting at least 2 days per week. Now, looking at common training for aerobics and strength, there is evidence showing that these methods of training do improve respiratory strength, and this is supported by the study that I found here: lung function and respiratory muscle adaptations of endurance and strength trained males. Now, this test was only done with males, but I assume same results will probably be seen in females. I don't see a reason why they would be different. And basically it showed here that there was an association with greater respiratory muscle strength measured through inspiratory and expiratory pressures, and also an association in improved endurance among the endurance trained athletes. So this would be like running, cycling, swimming, and for the strength trained athletes, it'd be just regular weightlifting. And so they tested all of these people using a cycling VO2 max test, and for the strength training, they tested the 1 rep max of the bench press, squat, and deadlift. And another interesting aspect here is that they believe that lower body strength may have a influence on respiratory muscle strength. I think this is more likely due to the intra-abdominal pressures that are increased when doing lower body strength exercises such as squats and deadlifts in order to support the spine. And then we also have this study which I've pointed out before: ventilatory muscle strength, diaphragm thickness, and pulmonary function in world-class powerlifters. And if you remember, this study pointed out that these powerlifters had thicker diaphragms and higher ventilatory muscle strength compared to normal people. And in a similar fashion, this study concluded that resistance training is what may be having the effect on the ventilatory muscle strength. So we've shown some studies that provide some support to the idea that aerobic exercise and strength training also strengthen the respiratory muscles. So next question is, can these same results be achieved with just breath work alone? And then also, does breath work have any unique aspects beyond what can be achieved through aerobic training or resistance training? So we know now that aerobic exercise is well studied and promoted by health and fitness industry. So what about breath work? Is there any evidence that shows its effects on cardiovascular endurance or lung function? So this first study I found is from India, and it's titled Effect of Pranayama on Cardiovascular Endurance. And so this was a relatively simple study here. It took 40 male subjects, half of them for the control and half of them who did pranayama as part of the experiment. And they had them do a whole suite of different breathing exercises found in pranayama practice. And they judged cardiovascular endurance by administering the Harvard STEP test. And in the end, what they found is that there was a significant difference in the cardiovascular endurance of the people in the experimental group compared to the control group. Now, I would have preferred if this study was a little more extensive. It doesn't really say what the subjects in the control group's level of activity was, whether they performed aerobic exercise or had trained before, or they're simply sedentary, and whether the people in the yoga group also did other activities as well. It's not very detailed. So this one's, while it does provide some support for breath work, I would have liked a little bit more. This next article here asks basically the question that I'm looking to answer here, and that's, does training of respiratory muscles affect exercise performance in healthy subjects? And this article is more of a study of other works and looking at the results and conclusions and methods used in those other studies. And it goes to conclude that there is evidence that respiratory muscle training improves exercise performance in well-controlled and rigorously designed studies which use exercise tests with low variation, but the mechanism by which respiratory muscle training improves this performance is not understood, and further study is needed. Now, this next study, also out of India, titled Comparative Study on the Effect of Breathing and Aerobic Exercise on General Health in Asymptomatic Population. So this took two groups of people with 16 subjects in each group, and one group did breathing exercises with both inspiratory and expiratory, and it looks like it was breath holds as well for a period of 6 weeks, while the aerobic group did cycling, stair climbing, and walking on a ramp for 6 weeks as well. And they each did 5 days per week for this entire period. And in the end, what they found was pretty interesting. Most of the breathing and pulse rate changes were similar between the breathing group and the aerobic group. And the biggest difference that they noted in this study was that the VO2 max changed in the aerobic group, and skin fold thickness was reduced in the aerobic group, where in the breathing group it was not. And this makes sense, as aerobic activity will burn more calories and use up more energy due to the demands on the various muscles in cycling and stair climbing and walking on an incline. Whereas breathing, this is just standing, sitting, or lying down. Not much calorie burn there. So skin fold thickness, of course, would not decrease when compared to aerobic exercise. And the other factor, VO2 max, is a factor of heart rate and stroke volume. The heart is a larger factor in the determination of VO2 max, and breathing exercises do not tax the heart as much as cardiovascular or aerobic exercises due to the need to pump blood to the muscles that are active. So this study presents some very interesting results here and shows how breathing is almost as effective as aerobic exercise when it comes to reducing heart rate and improving respiratory function. So it'd be interesting to see whether this effect tapers off when comparing more like an endurance athlete or something. Does that effect of breathing exercises additionally help, or is it become a moot point? You could also look at this and interpret as a merit of breathing exercise. So if you were injured or something to where you could not perform aerobic exercise such as running or cycling, then you could still train your respiratory function by doing breathing exercises. Or if you were fatigued and you didn't want to add additional muscle fatigue but improve your respiratory function, you could perform breathing exercises to continue to train without taxing your muscles or overtraining. Now moving on into looking at if there's any unique benefits or merits of performing breath work. I've come across a study here that looks at patients with what's called pleural effusion, which is a buildup of fluid in the lining that surrounds the lungs. And this is yet another study out of India, and the study talks about how tuberculosis is a common cause of pleural effusion in India. And this study looks at what's called segmental breathing, which is closely resembles or is basically the same as what's sometimes referred to as lateral breathing or intercostal breathing. In this breathing method, the emphasis is on expanding the rib cage, and it works the intercostals more than the diaphragm emphasis of other breathing methods. And this study goes on to conclude that segmental breathing had a better effect on respiratory function in patients with pleural effusion, and they looked at also chest expansion, and of course that makes sense since segmental breathing has an emphasis on expanding the rib cage and using the intercostal muscles, whereas typical deep breathing would emphasize the diaphragm. Okay, and the last study here is the effect of unilateral breathing exercises on regional lung ventilation. And this is a question that I had, is whether breathing with an emphasis into a certain area actually affected the ventilation or ventilation distribution of the lungs themselves. And this actually goes to provide some evidence for that. And so this study had participants perform unilateral breathing exercises in what they refer to here as a unilateral thoracic expansion exercise, which would be expanding the rib cage on one side of the body rather than on both sides of the body as you would in the previously mentioned segmental breathing. And it shows here that the ventilation in the ipsilateral, which would be the same side lung as the one you're performing the exercise on, could be increased in individuals who train using this breathing method. This study provides some evidence that you can influence the ventilation in your lungs via breathing exercises, and you do have some conscious control and influence beyond that which would occur when just performing aerobic exercise or typical traditional fitness routines. So there's one question that I still have yet to figure out, or that's still remaining, probably needs study, is that how does breath work compare, or what effect would it have on people who already are trained, especially those who are already trained to a high level, such as endurance athletes or power lifters, something like that. And it'd be also interesting to note if endurance athletes adopt certain breathing patterns that are trained via breath work due to the demands of the sport themselves, and they just have to accidentally or via trial and error or just due to the demand of trying to perform better in running or cycling or something that they eventually come upon a breathing pattern, be that a higher diaphragm emphasis or more engagement of the intercostals that a untrained person would not have or not be utilizing. That would be an interesting thing to look at and study if such information is available. I wasn't able to find anything like that in my search. If you found this video interesting, give me a like or a thumbs up. If you want to see more of it, hit the follow button or subscribe on YouTube. And if you think other people will be interested, give me a share on either Instagram or YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel or my Instagram page for all the other videos that I've done previously. And keep an eye out for future videos and posts. I've got a lot more studying that I'm going to be doing, and looking at all these different aspects of Chinese martial arts and Qigong in terms of their training exercises and possible use for health and fitness.